So it is 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 27 of our educational series. I'm Daphne Brown, the broker owner of Beyond the Home Realty, and we're based right here in Rosharon, Texas,
in Brazoria County,
but we service all of the Houston suburbs. All right. If you have a home on the market right now, or you're getting ready to list one, you've probably felt the anxiety of waiting for the phone to ring
and it'd be your agent on the other line telling you you have an offer.
Tonight, we're going to dive into a topic that most sellers completely misunderstand, which is reading the signals, what your showings, the feedback, and open houses are really telling you. This webinar is designed to pull back the curtain of the real estate market so you can treat your home listing like a data-driven business rather than an emotional roller coaster. Let us go ahead and dive in. Here is the foundational shift you need to make tonight. A listing isn't a transaction, it's a conversation. Every single time an agent opens your lockbox, every time a buyer walks through an open house, and every piece of feedback that hits your inbox from your listing agent is a data point. The market is constantly talking to you
and asking you, can we talk?
Do you hear it? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Right? The problem is, though, most home sellers don't speak that language. They assume a week with their home being on the market without any showings and without an offer means that they're failing. So what do? They panic, they get anxious, and then they slash the damn price of the home. And that's just not what is always the answer. And tonight's goal is going to be simple. We're going to turn every single showing into usable data so you never have to sit awake at night wondering, why isn't my house selling? All right. So on the agenda tonight, we're going to start with why most sellers misread their own listings. Then we'll break down the three major market signals: showing to offer ratios, decoding agent feedback, and tracking hidden online activity on portals like Zillow, Realtor.com, and Redfin. We're going to also tackle a hot question. Are open houses in today's market a real signal or just neighborhood noise? And then finally, I'll give you my proprietary 14-day rule and decision tree, walk you through a real life Texas case study, and hand you your homework for the week. So when your home sits on the market for 2 or 3 weeks without an offer, it feels like an absolute lifetime. We get it. We absolutely do. It feels like failure. But as a broker, I look at that silence differently. So for us, it's not a failure. It's a diagnosis waiting to be read. Sellers usually misread this information or the lack of because they look at their home from an emotional standpoint. They see the memories they've built. But buyers only look at data and alternative options. To read the market signals accurately, we first have to establish what a normal market rhythm looks like right now. And so we are talking about setting the baseline, the sell to list ratio, average days to offer, and real estate market trends. Let's look at what normal looks like right now. 46 to 67 days. This is the current average time it takes to secure a solid offer. If you've been listed for 10 days, you're not failing. You're just in the normal rhythm. And then 96 to 99%. This is the average sell to list price ratio. Buyers, because there's so much inventory, buyers are negotiating. But properties that are priced correctly are holding their value near the asking price. And then this number, two showings. On average, this is how many times a serious, highly motivated buyer will view a home before they actually write a contract. And then this number, 14. This is your critical reassessment checkpoint. This is the window where market interest peaks, and it's where we analyze the data that we've collected. Now that we know the baseline, let's look at signal number one. Signal number one is your showing to offer ratio. This is the single cleanest diagnostic tool available to a seller. Yet, almost nobody tracks this. It allows us to pinpoint exactly where the bottleneck is in your sales process. Now, let's look at the 4 quadrants of the diagnostic matrix to see what your ratio is telling you. So, we're going to break down these 4 scenarios. First, many showings and no offers. If agents are booking appointments and buyers are walking through your door, your marketing is working. Your online presence is probably beautiful, but if they walk inside and they leave without writing an offer, something inside the home is stopping them. And this is almost always a price relative to condition issue. Buyers are walking through your home and comparing your home to other listings down the street that show better or offer more updates for that exact same price.
Second,
Few showings and no offers. This is a completely different diagnosis. If the listing agent's phone isn't ringing at all about your home, buyers aren't even finding your listing or clicking it, or they're having a hard time doing it. This is a marketing and exposure problem. It means your professional photos aren't capturing attention. Your price per square foot is cutting you out of automated search filters on the real estate portals, or your listing description isn't optimized. And then next, which is the third one, you have many showings, but the offers are lowballing you. Do not get insulted by lowball offers. This is actually a great signal, okay? Glass half full here. Because it means that interest is real and buyer demand is strong and people want that property. The value gap is much smaller than it looks. This isn't a cue for a massive price cut. It means a negotiation and price anchoring conversation needs to happen. And fourth, showings and strong offers. This is the dream scenario. It means everything is working for the good of those who love the Lord. It means everything is working exactly as intended. So my advice here, please, 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 please resist the urge to over negotiate or let your nerves get the best of you. You're in the strongest possible market position right here. And so what you need to do, what your agent needs to make sure you do is protect it. All right.
moving right along to signal number 2, decoding agent feedback.
Here is an insider secret from a broker owner. Buyers agents rarely say exactly what they mean directly to a seller. It typically doesn't happen. They want to protect their clients and maintain professional politeness. And so their fiduciary duty is to the buyer, right? And so if you want to know what the market is actually saying, you have to know how to translate real estate speak. So let's do just that. We're about to talk about how to interpret showing feedback and the home buyer second showing. All right, let's run through the feedback decoder so that we can translate what you hear into what it actually means. So if an agent says, oh, my buyers are just starting their search, they're just looking, that means it's not a real signal yet. But don't alter your strategy or react based on a casual browser, okay? Now, if they say, my clients loved it, but, well, that's where you need to pay close attention. Something highly specific stopped them from writing an offer. So have your realtor follow up to ask exactly what came after the word but. Now, if you hear them say, we're comparing this listing to other listings, a few other listings, we want you to take heart.
Typically, that means you are in the final pool.
Congratulations. So usually price terms or a minor presentation tweak will be the tiebreaker here. Here's the kicker, because this happens all the time. If you get silence or no feedback at all, well, that is feedback, right? So that is something we want you to see as a soft no. Okay? Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't let it sit. Make sure your agent is following up directly within 48 hours to extract a response. But no response is typically a response. And then if they say, great house, just not the layout. Well, don't worry and don't overcorrect because you simply cannot change the floor plan of a home easily without like major renos, and nobody's trying to do that, okay? But understand that if you get feedback that says that layout is just not right, then that buyer was never your buyer to begin with. And finally, if an agent asks for a second showing, ding, 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 okay? This is the holy grail, all right? It is a massive buy signal. So be ready to negotiate immediately. All right. And so now we're going to dive into repeat showings and online activity. It was a great segue, right? So we're going to talk about all things Zillow listing views, Redfin, Price Watch, and real estate portal data.
All of which are part of Signal 3. This is where the behind the scenes action takes place. So right on your agent's computer or smartphone, and yours too, long before the phone ever rings, there are quiet signals happening on Zillow, Redfin, and our local MLS that tells us that an offer is brewing.
The strongest pre-qual signals, the real estate market context, and days on market are very, very important here.
When we look past the first walkthrough, we should be looking at these 4 critical indicators.
One being a second showing request. So as I mentioned before, this is the single strongest pre-offer signal in existence.
Buyers don't drag themselves
Through a house a second time just for kicks and giggles. They are mentally placing their furniture and, seeing how they're going to live throughout the house. They are seeing what works where,
who's going to get which room, and they're figuring all of these things out mentally, so a second showing is very positive.
And then you have family or spouse comes along for a second showing. Now, the first showing is typically just exploratory, but when they return with decision makers, a spouse, or an opinionated relative, they are building a consensus to prepare to make an offer, which is good. All right. And then the saved listing and the price watch activity. When your agent shares portal back end data with you, which they should be doing every week, you want to look at the saves.
You want to look at how many times your home has been favorited. If buyers are setting price drop alerts, it means they are circling like hawks, waiting to see if you move your number
down, typically a price reduction. And then days on market. Days on market creep on comparable homes. Look at your local market context. If similar homes in your specific neighborhood are also sitting, then it's a pretty much market-wide pace issue, not a personal failure. Context matters here, and you have to make sure you understand the context before you panic.
Now let's talk about a hot button topic that many people have differing opinions about.
Open houses in 2026, signal or noise? Are open houses even worth it? I want to be completely honest. Open house traffic isn't what it was during the hyper frenzy of 2021. Let's just get that out the way. However, it still holds massive diagnostic value if you know how to separate the signal from the noise. Bring the noise. So now let's read the room. Open house looky-loos versus real buyers. When analyzing open house traffic, we have to look at what's actionable versus what's just background noise. On the left, we have noise. Neighbors who are just curious about what your house looks like inside, agents previewing with no doggone follow-up, or people who sign in with fake information, fake phone numbers, fake emails. That is just noise. And so consider it just that. High traffic counts mean absolutely nothing if people are just browsing or visiting every open house on the street just because they're bored or because they're nosy. But here on the right, we have real buyer signals. So look for visitors who provide full, valid contact details and visitors that ask specific questions about pre-approvals, schools, HOA, the neighbors, things like that. Amenities, when you get people asking those types of questions involving those things, then this could really be a potential. If you see them physically measuring walls for a sofa or walking the entire perimeter twice or staying in the house for more than 15 minutes, you have a what? Live prospect. Yep. So at that point, have your agent follow up within 24 hours because these are incredibly strong signals. All right.
Let us now move on to the 2-week rule.
In real estate, market interest peaks in the first 14 days that a home is active online. That is when your listing has that fresh new badge and hits everybody's email alerts. Now, waiting 30, 45, or 60 days to reassess your position is exactly how listings become stale, overlooked, and dead in the water. So, what do we actually do at that 14-day mark? Well, let's look at the decision tree.
Keep in mind that when you list with us, part of our pre-listing activities is we roll out how we look at all data and how we then take that data and deliver it to you. We show you upfront where we collect our data from, what we're collecting, and then on day 14, if the listing, hasn't received any offers, we go into exactly what happens next. And sometimes we readjust, and sometimes, depending on the data that we're seeing, sometimes we hold still. But here's how the 14-day checkpoint works.
At day 14, we run our data through this diagnostic tree. If you have 0 showings, it is a marketing and exposure issue. We don't necessarily change the price immediately, but instead, we revisit the listing photos, we look at our price per square foot positioning, and we rewrite the listing description to see why buyers aren't clicking. Now, if you have showings but no offers, it is a price or condition issue typically. Buyers like the marketing, they're walking through, but they're stopping short. We review the feedback patterns and aggressively compare your home's interior condition to recent sold homes, the interior conditions of recent sold properties. And then if you have showings and offers, you're entirely on track. So keep focusing on your negotiation strategy and protect your position. To show you exactly how this looks in practice, let's look at a real life Texas case study. Day 1, a beautiful home was listed at $415,000 with strong professional photography and priced right in line with historical comps. Days 1 through 14, the home received great traffic, 11 showings in fact, but it resulted in 0 offers. The common feedback pattern was, oh, lovely home, just not sure about the price for this specific street. And then day 14, the 2-week rule triggered a formal review. Because showings were high, but offers were 0, we knew it wasn't necessarily a marketing exposure issue.
So we figured it was a price or condition signal.
And day 15, we repulled comparable solds and adjusted the price by a mere 2.5%. There was no panic, just a data-driven correction to match the signal. And day 22, the adjustment worked. We saw immediate showings. So 3 immediate showings, which generated 2 competitive offers, all within a single week. The home went under contract just 8 days after our strategic adjustment. So win, 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 win for everybody. Now,
if you already have your home on the market, we want you to consider doing these 3 things this week.
So number 1, you're going to ask your realtor to log every showing, which they should be doing anyways. All right. So have them start a simple objective tracker.
Log the date, showing count, and exact agent feedback in the buyer's own words. Patterns only become visible when you track them.
And then you're going to number 2, mark your 14-day checkpoint. If you're currently listed, circle that 14-day mark on your calendar. That's going to be the exact day that you diagnose the data. Not a single day sooner, and definitely not 30 days later. And then number 3, ask for a signal review. If your home is currently sitting on the market and something feels off, reach out to your agent and ask them to personally review your showing history, the feedback logs, and the portal data against this exact framework to find where the bottleneck is. All right? Okay. Now, price reduction psychology and refreshing a stale listing, those are the things that we're going to talk about next week in week 28. We're going to break out the adjustment playbook, price, prep, or both. And in next week's webinar. We're going to cover the psychology behind a price reduction, how to refresh photos versus dropping the price, and whether resetting your days on market actually works. Do we have any questions from the people here? I was going to say from the peanut gallery. Perfect. So I want to thank you so much for spending your evening with me. If you're thinking about it, or if you're ready to buy or sell in the Houston suburbs, my contact details are right here on the screen. Let's talk. Let's keep your data clear and get your home sold. Or if you're a buyer, we'd love to help you purchase with precision and close with confidence. My name is Daphne Brown. I am the broker owner of Beyond the Home Realty, and I am always ready and willing to enable you to find your way home. Till next week, guys. Bye.
We cordially invite you to join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. live during our Wednesday webinars. And if you can't make it there, we've packaged all of the past Wednesday webinars here in this playlist.